There are a lot of people in the masterpiece collecting space that shun the lower end collector, the lower end items, or the budget items. Today, I want to talk to you about the best budget items that you could possibly put on your masterpiece shelf in 2020. A lot of things have changed, prices have gone through the roof, and I, for one, am a budget collector. It may not always look like that, but I sure am. I'm always looking for the deals, and when I find them, I want to share them. So let's get into this. First budget deal of the day. Bad Cube Grump gears, probably the best gears out there, is not a good budget option. It's very expensive figure. Nowadays, getting a second market was like $200. Hate to say it, but a lot of people use a stand-in of the actual Legends figure from Hasbro. This thing was really an expensive figure for a while. Prices come down to like 60 bucks, but it's way better than 200. When you look at a figure to stand in for your gears, you really need to look at it as a stand-in. I actually think Fans Toys will come around the corner any day now and announce they're doing one. And so if that happens, that would be a budget option for around $100 versus $200, $220, $240 or whatever. So that's definitely something to look at. I would put a Hasbro stand-in if I really wanted to or if I needed to. It wouldn't be the end of the world. Next up, for the $80 price point, you can get your hands on the good old Open and Play Big Spring. I still have this figure. I think it's a great figure. There's really nothing wrong with this figure. I like it. A lot of people don't like the paint aspect of it, but everyone who's gotten their hands on it likes the transformation aspect of it and the posability and everything about it. I think it looks good. Yes, it could use a premium paint job. Would make it a whole lot better. But you're looking at the $80 price point. Used to be the $60 price point. Really hard to find it for them, but if you can find it for $60, I still think it's solid. If I didn't have my Fans Toys, I'd still actually be perfectly happy with this. Also, there's a lot of people out there that really like the MMC. Now, the MMC one is a bit more expensive. For about $130 for you to pick this guy up, still at retail, and in many different places that you can pick them up. So, definitely a really good looking option. I really think that this one goes head-to-head and toe-to-toe with the Fans Toys version. But let's just face it, X-Transbots will win in the end. Now, a lot of Masterpiece collectors say they don't want any Hasbro on their shelf. Hey, I started out with the Hasbro as one of my first suggestions. I would also suggest still to get your hands on a Combiner Wars Devastator. I think that looks good. When they put this thing out, I don't know, what was it 2014, 15, something like that? It was a very nice G1 looking combined figure. I would not do anything with the separate bots. I don't think they're that great. And I think the individual modes are alright, but I'm just looking for bot mode on the shelf. Really big. He's 18 inches. Doesn't really scale well with the big combiners. But if you're going budget, you're probably going the 18-inch route anyway, so it would fit with the rest of yours. Now, I throw the Generation Toy one in there, but it's $300. It looks okay. It's a bit stylized. It's a bit like shorter and stubbier looking than I would want to go. But at the end of the day, it's still a nice looking representation. And if you want your Devastator to just look super beefy and roided up, this is definitely the one for you. And it's still $200 cheaper than the Toy World version, which seems to be the most popular. And for Superion, I still love the Zhejiang Jet Commander Zhejiang. This one is a good option. Now, it is a KO, so we're not really getting into KOs, but when you KO it and you upscale it and you change it and you add different parts and stuff, I mean, it's different. I don't have anything against KO, so there it is. But it looks good. It looks the part. I loved what Combiner Wars did with this. I think Superion is the best mold for Combiner Wars. Of course, combined, I don't really think they're that great separate. The jet modes are okay. But at the end of the day, this is a really good option for like 130 bucks. And my last combiner for budget is the DX9 Minosaur. If you're going to do this, like here it is. If you're a budget collector, get your hands on Motormaster, the Capone now while you can for a good price. I got mine back when they were selling for $130. Now they're like $150 or more. But then you get the limbs, the two arm limbs as they come out. There's one right now, the Kuzinski, and then there's the other one coming out that's the drag strip. And they're 90 bucks at Show Z. So you look at about 150 plus the 90 and the 90. You're looking at 330, and you have yourself a combiner. Now that's not giving you the two leg back pieces, So this is my budget, cheap way to have a Minotaur on a shelf for $330. That is actual big combiner size. And you're not giving up anything with this guy, trust me. Okay, the next recommendation is for a Masterpiece Omega Supreme. I'm super happy with my DX9. Now, you can still get this on pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store for $180. Show Z has it in stock right now, I think, for like $220 or something like that. So it is more expensive there, but it's in stock now, I believe. But here, you're still having to pre-order it. So when you look at all of those facts, this is a great figure for a great price. And I know that the Siege version, which I believe to be a bit inferior to this version aesthetically, maybe not play value wise, but aesthetically, and the Siege one's getting a reissue for $160 also. So it's just like, how do you want to go? What direction do you want to go on this? Now, I'm just looking at price, and I've never handled this figure before, but the Zeta version of Astro Train is only going to be about $75, and they're putting it out at the low budget price point simply because there's bigger, more expensive options out there that you're going to have to go after. But Thomas, Fans Toys Thomas is going to be really hard to get for the $220. And you hear that, $220, it's hard to get for $220. This thing's going to be easy to get for $75. So maybe you could score one for $60. I don't know. I've saw the reviews of Toy World. I don't know if Zeta's is going to be better or worse. I don't know. Just, they can make improvements. But I do like the way it looks for the most part. And I considered getting Toy World back in the day. But I wasn't going to do it for $110 4 years ago or 3 years ago. But today, in modern day pricing for $75, I'm all over that thing. There's a lot of iterations of Cosmos out there, and the X-Transbots is probably the best, and the one that everybody says is the best and likes the most, but they are commanding a much higher price right now, so there it is. You can go get the more higher priced one from X-Transbots, or you can get the Toy World or the Zeta version, whichever one seems to be the one you get your hands on, for about $45, and I think that's about what I paid for mine when I picked my Toy World up a couple years ago, and it's a pretty nice looking figure. I mean, I think all of the options out there in the Masterpiece realm for this character are great. The Cosmos, I mean, I'm not really super tied to the character, so just getting a cheap one to put on the shelf and just check it off the list is fine for me. If you have to have the best of the best of the best, right now is still X-Transbots. So I think the best budget option for getting yourself a Jetfire / Skyfire would be the Siege one. It's getting reissued for $80, so you can get it pretty much wherever they sell these. I know TF Source has it, so that's a quick, easy way to grab one. I do like this figure. I was pleasantly surprised by it. I think that it will work as a Masterpiece stand-in. It would be a little bit shorter than the likes of both the DX9 and the Fans Toys. But if you don't want to spend $400 and you say, well, I could do $80, well, I would get on this. And when this sells out, it's not going to be $80 anymore. I think this thing was selling for $150 for a while on the secondary market while they were sold out. And then before they re-announced they're reissuing it, and I know that's going to happen again. They're not going to keep this thing in stock forever. Well, maybe they will. He also played a pretty cool role in the War for Cybertron series, so excellent figure. I suggest it. I did mention that they're reissuing the Siege Omega Supreme. I'm really disappointed it never showed up at Ollie's for $50. I think those days are over. I think Hasbro's learned to get around that. Scorponok. Now, this figure is quickly selling out everywhere. They'll probably get a reissue, but we don't know for sure. You never know for sure. But I'm still kind of gut feeling it will. But I got mine right away. So, boom, it's one and done. I don't got to worry about chasing one down. But they're starting to sell out of places. This is a good budget option now for $160. It may not sound like a budget $160, but we're not seeing, like the old days, the Black Friday deals. You can almost count that the Titan class would be $110 at Black Friday sales every Black Friday. Those days are over, guys. I would be saying do that. You can't trust that anymore, but this dude here is an awesome figure. For $160, you're getting every dollar's worth out of this. And you know what? People would have paid $400 for this a few years ago. I don't know if you've seen prices of the Fans Toys versions of RC, which I'm sure that'll get a reissue. I mean, it's due for reissue. But the Toy World one right now is still only like $70 or $80. Used to be $60. The Zeta one's coming out. If you can snag the Zeta one for $60, then I would probably jump on that one. I think that it is a good figure. It looks like RC. A lot of people hate the way it looks. I think they're just hating on it doesn't have the right form factor to it. But I think that taller is better, and I think she looks really good next to Rodimus. She is taller than Hot Rod, but who cares? Hot Rod was only around for 3/4 of a movie and not very much in Season 3, so in my mind, Hot Rod is just like a blip on the radar. What I really care about is what does she look like next to Rodimus, and I think a lot of them just look pathetic next to Rodimus. She fits in very well. Another Hasbro item that I'm going to put on my Masterpiece shelf will be the Quintesson that they're making right now in the Earthrise, and this Quintesson is a pretty nice looking figure. It's not 100% perfect. I'm sure the X-Transbots would blow it out of the water, but the X-Transbots is $175. This thing is $30. Now, there's going to be an upgrade kit that's coming out that's going to take this from being a really short looking little figure to being a tall looking figure, and this looks like it will work on a Masterpiece shelf. Look at it next to a Masterpiece Hot Rod. Look how that looks. And it's supposed to light up. There's a lot of cool features with that. This 3D printed piece here is going to come from a company or an online seller called Repro Arcade on eBay. Now, I'm hoping to have more information about this for Sunday in my news segment, but I'm excited for this. And I'm thinking I might actually order me 3 or 4 of these so I have them on hand so that I could get me 3 or 4. I already have the Judgment one coming in from the Hasbro Pulse. I'm excited to see all of that, and this is going to be an excellent way to turn a Hasbro mainline into something that would work on your Masterpiece shelf. When it comes to Minibots, now I want to reiterate this. All of these are getting made by Fans Toys. They're all going to be $100 at retail, and then once they sell out, they'll go to $150 or maybe $200. Who knows? But saying you're looking at $100 versus for one versus $100 for all 3. And I think they're all fine. I think that Warpath's the weakest, to tell you the truth, out of all of them. And that's my opinion, my belief. Everybody has their own strange beliefs about these things. But at the end of the day, they fit a hole on your shelf for a budget. If you're a budget collector, if you're like, hey, I don't want to remortgage my house, then go for these guys. As for the rest of them, X-Transbots is definitely an excellent budget option that's out there. I think that Wind Charger was for sale at TF Source for like $25 or something like that, and you can still get it for like I think $50 on Show Z. But anyway, looking at all of these, some of them are a little outdated, or maybe there's better options around out there. Which, guess what? That makes these budget options. Still, the Cosmos is a bit expensive. It is the best one out there, and of course, it's the only Ollie that looks really like Ollie today. I wonder if we'll ever see like a Fans Toys make an Ollie, or another company come along and make an Ollie. But I'm perfectly fine with my Ollie, and so, you know, Willie's not that big of a character to me, so it fills my hole. But what do you guys think about these? Now, the KFC Reflector, I thought that in there as a budget option for $130. Now, $130 doesn't sound like cheap, but when you think about it, it's $130 for 3 figures. 3 figures that every figure feels pretty solid, pretty premium. And yeah, I remember when all of these reflectors came out, which felt like within the same week, but it was like within the same year. And it was really hard to decide which one did you want, which one was the best. And this one here, I looked deep into it, and they do look really close to tune accurate with every aspect of them. I think they look really good, but the thing about it is for $130 and you get 3, and they feel pretty premium. They feel really good. Make Toys also has an option out there for around the same price, maybe $100, $130, and they look okay also. But I think these look a little bit better, and I would say even if you're budget, spending that little bit more to get something this good is worth it. All right, let's get into some centerpieces in your collection. There are some budget options out there for Optimus Prime. Now, obviously, there's the Transform Element one, and it's a good, solid option. I would say, yes, you could go with that Prime if that's one that you want. Everybody talks about it for about $105. If you're going to be spending $105 or so on the Transform Element one, I would suggest to go with the MP44, the KO version. And yes, we're getting into this. When you start looking at it, Takara does some of the best work. They are the highest priced figures. Then they become the lowest priced figures when they get knocked off. If you have a problem with owning a knockoff, then, well, you did get Transform Element. That's why I'm throwing both of those out there, because those are good options for you. But I do like the way that MP44 looks the best still to this day, and I have, you know, all of those on my shelf. I still like it. I don't have my KO version yet, so I can't really tell you how much different it feels than the original. And if you like flipping them back and forth, maybe this isn't the best one for you to flip back and forth a whole lot. Maybe the Transform Element is better. Actually, if you like to flip them back and forth, I really think that Magic Square is the best. Oddly enough, the price of Magic Square 1 is creeping up and up and up, so there is an issue. So next for Megatron, right now the only option out there is an MP36. for KO for a low budget option, or Infinite Transformations. Sorry to get that mixed up. Infinite Transformations is a solid one. I mean, I have it. It has some die cast in it. It has some paint covering. It's supposed to allegedly have a scratch reduction paint covering over it so it doesn't scratch when you transform it and all of that. And then, of course, it's supposed to be super duper solid. Mine's a little bit not as solid as everyone else's, a bit flimsy in a way on the knee joint, but the rest of it is actually pretty solid. Maybe I can figure out a way to tighten it, but I think that it's a pretty good one. If you really aren't down for KO and you cannot do a KO, then I got some third-party options. So X-Transbots Polygon can be found for almost half price of a KO of MP36 these days. It's insane. It's crazy to believe that a third-party option could be cheaper than a knockoff, but yes, that's the way it is. That's the pricing these days. I still think he looks pretty good. I think he holds up on the shelf pretty fine. DX9 Mitron's running about $80 these days. I think I got mine for about that price, and I feel like he's pretty solid. I don't like the lower legs, the shins. I like everything else about this figure. He is pretty stable, pretty solid. He looks pretty good, but the front fins, there was some sort of a 3D printed add-on, but it added a bunch of bulk. I really wish somebody come and really fix that with a better 3D printed add-on kit for that, but at the end of the day, it's not a bad option, and for 80 bucks, if that's what you want on your shelf and you just can't stand KO and don't want to spend $250, $300 on the Takara, then I'd go with the DX9 Mitron. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is this Blitzwing. Now, again, this is a controversial figure because it does have some stability issues to it, and Fans Toys redesigned theirs to not have the same problem with this, but the Fans Toys is going to be $220. It's going back to that, are you going to spend $220? You're going to get this for $100, maybe even get it used for $75, something like that. That's your choice. The KFC Ditka figure is a good looking figure. I look at it on my shelf. I can see it right now. It looks beautiful. The way I have it positioned on my shelf, it does the job. But if you got to have the best of the best of the best, drop your $220 and wait another year or whenever. I don't know when it's coming out. Says sometime next year. You can get this today. And you can have this today on your shelf and enjoy it for a very, very low price. Really do hope that you guys enjoyed this little budget segment that I put together for you. This is not an all-inclusive list, but I do want to hear down below what budget options you find out there. I know a lot of people are going to be holier than thou and don't buy a KO or don't buy a budget option, spend $300 per figure, $600, $700 a figure, but that's not everybody. And the truth is, that's definitely not me. So, like, subscribe, Titanium Hanger, out.